to visit, and he asked me. He said, "Yeah," he said, "Could I come out and actually see what's going on?" And I said, "Sure, if you wanted to." And he said, "Can you pick me up at the airport?" And I said, "I don't know." I said, "It depends upon where we go." I said, "If it's going to be local, if it's going to be close to the airport or to the university, then I should have time to pick you up before I have to go to the lab in the afternoon." I said, "However, if it's one of the places that are far away, such as Nogales, which still hadn't been picked, or, for example, the top of Mount Lemmon that hadn't been picked, both of which would have taken virtually the whole day to go there, do the things you'd explored, and then come back. I said, I won't be able to pick you up. You'll have to take a taxi." So he said, "Okay, we'll see what happens." So it's now day 9, and in the morning, Christopher sees that we're going to be going to a place where there are lots of parking meters, he said. We're going to be going to a place where there are lots of satellite dishes, towers with satellite dishes and antennas. He said we'd be going to a place where there was going to be a murder that would be take place not too far from where we were going to go, and that it was going to appear in the front page of the newspaper the next day. He also saw us going to an airport, that there were going to be 3 people, he and I and one other person. He also said that at the airport, he saw these black and white small little planes that looked like arrows, Indian arrows, black arrows, and that they were going to be making a lot of noise. Now, of course, when I heard about the airport and the planes and so on and so forth, I said, "Well, gee, that might be that we're actually going to pick up my writing partner." But of course, I didn't know what was going to happen because it depended where the place was. By the way, the parking meters and the satellite dishes and the murder, I had no idea where that was going to be. Well, I get the information. I call my writing partner, of course, who's still in California, in the morning, and he tells me that where I'm going to be taking Christopher is downtown Tucson. And I was planning to park on what's called Congress Street, which is where I would go when I went downtown. Now, that's only about 10 minutes from Christopher's hotel, only 7 minutes from the university, which meant I would have time to then pick up my writing partner, in the afternoon. Well, we went downtown to the place that I would normally go, and it turns out that that's a row of parking meters. I mean, the whole, it's a downtown city street. It's a small downtown Tucson, but it's the place in downtown where you have to use a parking meter. We walk along, and sure enough, I mean, of course, I had never noticed this before, but a block away off of Congress, there is this gigantic tower with, I don't know, 10 or 15 different satellite dishes. I mean, really a dramatic satellite dish, as Christopher foresaw it. And then he said, "I don't want to stay around here anymore." He said, "There's going to be a murder not too far from here, and I just want to go." And I said, "Christopher," I said, "shouldn't we look in the newspaper? Maybe it happened yesterday. Let's look at the newspaper." He said, "Gary, my dream was very specific. It's going to happen. It'll be in the next day's paper." By the way, the next day's paper, sure enough, front page, there was a murder not far from where we were in Tucson. Well, so we go back to the hotel, and then we have time now to pick up my writing partner. Now, this was before 9/11, remember. This was a couple of months before 9/11. And we didn't have airport security yet, so you can go right up to the gate. And we go up to the gate, and we hear this thundering sounds. And it turned out that what happened was, because there's a Davis Moffett Air Force Base, and every now and then they use the runways at the airport for practice. And sure enough, there were these black jets coming in and landing, touching down, taking off, touching down, taking off, making these thunderous sounds, and they look like little black arrows. So I said, "Okay, that's fine." But that still doesn't necessarily speak to the intelligence question. That's just Christopher getting information. So then, this is the big part. Christopher asked me about Saturday, because this was on Friday, And my writing partner was now picked up, and he said, well, what's going to happen tomorrow, which is the last day? And I said, Christopher, I didn't tell you this, and there was no reason for me to tell them this. I said, but it just so happens, because of the timing of when the experiment began, that it just so happens that I have an appointment at the medical school at noon. I have to be in the medical school at noon. There's a conference that's going to be in the afternoon starting at 1 p.m. that I'm one of the keynote speakers. So I said that if the place that we're being taken to on Saturday is close, then I can take you. If it's far, Bill Simon, my writing partner, will have to take you because I'll have to go to this event. And then he said to me, Gary, don't worry. He says, you're going to get there in plenty of time. And I said, why? And he said, because my dreams in June were very clear. On day 10, we would end very early, and I would spend most of the day at the pool. Now, I said, what? I said, you're telling me that in June, you dreamt that the experiment was going to be over quickly, and that I was going to be, that you were going to be, the experiment was going to be over, and you were going to spend time at the pool. He said, yes, that's what my dream said. I said, but Christopher, I didn't even know that I was going to be speaking at this event, and we didn't know when the experiment was going to start. He said, Gary, that's what my dream said. So I said, that's really interesting. I said, if there really is some sort of guiding, remember, the G.O.D. experiment stands for guiding, organizing, designing process. If there is some sort of guiding, organizing, designing process that's literally playing itself out in this experiment, then tomorrow we've got to be done the very earliest of any of the 10 days. And I said, if we end up going to Mount Lemmon or to Nogales or any of the distant places, then your early information will be wrong, and then I won't have to worry about the idea that there was some sort of higher intelligence potentially coordinating Bill's schedule and your schedule and my schedule and all this stuff. Knowing about this and playing some sort of role in it. Well, as you can imagine, that night prior to the 10th day, I was a bit nervous. I was nervous because what if Christopher was correct? Well, day 10, what does he hear? He says, I'm seeing a park. I'm seeing it looks like a London park, lots of tall trees and grass. He says, I see an Army ROTC building. He says, I see us having to cross over to a stream, some sort of running water or stream, a small brook or stream, to get to where we're going. That was basically the information. Well, I'm thinking to myself, where is there in Tucson, in August, tall trees with grass, where there's a brook of running water and like RO Army type buildings? There was only one place that I could imagine that was left on the list, and that was the top of Mount Lemmon, or the trip to Mount Lemmon. Now, the Mount Lemmon trip, it turns out they were doing construction at that time. It would have taken 2.5 hours to get to the top, and another 2.5 hours to get back. So I realized, well, I said to myself as I heard the information, Christopher's wrong, and his dream in June was wrong. I'm not going on the trip. I don't have to worry about this timing question. Well, after we get the information, the envelope is finally opened, and where we're going is the Arizona State Museum, which is a Native American museum, on the campus at the University of Arizona.
Uh-huh.
It's literally like 4 or 5 blocks from the medical school. It couldn't have been closer. It's virtually at the medical school. So I'm in shock. But I said, well, you've got the information wrong. So I thought. Now, it turns out they were doing construction on the main entrance to the old part of the campus where this museum is. So I pulled into the south side, which is a place that I normally don't